there's different ways to exist and to also like put these things on and organize them. But they're all, come from the sense of community and also the sense of like trying to do something for your community.
This will be great. I'm very excited to be today to be speaking with Sky Hopinka, the director of Powwow People. Sky, thank you so much for the time. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Powwow People is a beautiful film. Visually, it's stunning, and it is just such a fascinating way. I mean, we've seen films about powwows before, but we're really seeing it just sort of happen in front of us. Why was it about, or what was it about this that you wanted to tell the story in this way?
For a number of reasons. I mean, there's things about powwows that I think are really hard to explain. The life cycle of a powwow from its inception to its completion, like what happens afterwards. Just the sort of like the non-spectacular moments as well, I think are really beautiful. And there's a lot there when it comes to just like the makeup of this thing. Like they don't just happen, there's people that put them on, people that have a desire to, a love for this thing. And that's the thing I was really trying to explore with this film is like how to communicate that without making it more like, I'm trying to teach you something. I'm trying to like, give you some factual information about this. I was looking for more of an emotional journey, I think.
Well, it sort of feels like an invitation to attend, like to be honest, as opposed to, it's not so much a film about powwows as it is about being a part of it, which I think is a really unique way to tell the story. Um, I like that you say that about, the little things that go into it because we see them setting up, we see them, taking down. I wonder if you could speak to the nature of community in in the powwow circuit because it really comes through in the film that this is for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, like they're so varied and they're so different. I mean, like there's powwows that are put on by tribes, by casinos, by community groups, by students, by just people in a community that just love powwows. It's like they're all so different, but I think there's different ways to navigate that. And like also like those things that I just like named, like they're not separate. Like I put on my first powwow with Gina when we were part of the student group at Portland State University. My mom, she put on powwows when she was working at a casino in Southern California, but then also when she lived in Washington. And it's just there's different ways to exist and to also like put these things on and organize them. But they're all, come from the sense of community and also the sense of like trying to do something for your community and also to make a space where you can practice your culture and to visit with people and to invite people in from other parts of the country that I think is like really beautiful and expansive when it comes to defining and making space for these different ways of existing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And one of the words that pops as well following up with this is inclusivity. We hear as we're watching this unfold, we hear voiceovers now and then, and there's a certainly young person that has transitioned and talks about their own fear of being rejected by the community. And I wondered if you could speak to that because, like you said, in this with for this particular young person, they're saying like, no, but they have not rejected me in this world of that really heavily balances tradition.
I think that speaks to just like, I mean, the depths of tradition and also just the nuance around that as well. And like, I mean, like there's in the United States, there's over like, 500 federally recognized tribes. And it's just like there's over 500 ways of being native and existing in this country. And, including like, Canada as well, where it's just like there's different tribes and different communities and different belief systems. And like, how do you navigate that? And what sort of things, like Jamie John points out, like, what sort of things do you keep and what sort of things do you leave behind? And what sort of things do you unlearn that have been a result of boarding schools or of these sort of intergenerational traumas? And that's a lot to parse through. And it's a lot to like, to dive into when it comes to personal history and family history and tribal history. And, I like that these powwows, they're a way to talk through that and work through that in a very present way, in a way that's, has some protection and has some barriers and has some buffers to work through these things in practice, in situ. And so, as Jamie John is talking through these things that they've experienced and the fears that they have and the ways that, they stopped dancing for years and they came back to it, it is something to hold on to while everything else is kind of in flux and changing. But at the same time, it can also grow and change and it will grow and change because that's like the nature of culture.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things that I thought was so fascinating too. I'd like to explore that because when we think of indigenous powwows or these sort of things, we think of that word tradition, and there are questions being asked about, you know, what does this look like moving forward? What part of our story does it tell? Does it help us heal? Is it, you know, or speaking more about the traumas of the past and how it evolves? And I was wondering what is that relationship between change and tradition and how does it keep evolving?
I mean, it's been evolving since its inception. I mean, where powwows came out of like the reservation system in like the late 1800s, and
Mm,
so there's always been this idea of performance, and it's just like powwows aren't ceremonial, but there are ceremonial and sacred things that happen at them. You know what I mean? And so they're constantly evolving and changing. Like where like in the 40s and 50s is like when the fancy dance came about and entered the dance floor. To be like more of a spectacle of a performance of a dance.
mhm.
But then there's always like these additions and these add-ons and these things that people kind of change from location to location that suits their community and suits their ideas about what is important to their beliefs and their culture and their traditions. And I mean, I think it's so beautiful in that way, the ways that it is adaptable and malleable and constantly evolving and changing. And it's just sometimes it's hard to, when you're in the moments and in the present, to see the way that things change, like for anything, whether how things were different 20 years ago and trying to imagine how they'll be different 20 years from now. Like, I mean, things have changed from when I was a kid growing up following, and I know they're going to continue changing. I mean, it's always interesting and exciting to see, especially the older that you get, the younger people and how they make it their own and the questions that they're asking and how this constant sort of like scaffolding that happens, where we are living in the present and asking the questions we are asking now because of the questions that were asked 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Like with like Daybreak Star, when we had the powwow, like that's a result of a successful like indigenous takeover of a military installation. It's a successful Alcatraz as it was, and so like powwows have been happening there since the 70s, and it's been a really important part of the Seattle Native community, and it's can continue to be so, and a site for these questions to be asked. So I think that like it's grounded in culture, it's grounded in the youth, and it's also grounded in these locations and these landscapes that we are allowed and we make space for ourselves to exist in.
I love that. I let you know, and it is true. I mean, whatever it is, we're constantly evolving with it along the ways because we are different. And the way that this is happening within jingle dancing and the indigenous communities is, I mean, it's happening in its own construct, but it is what happens, new expressions of life. I think that's such a beautiful thing, and see those connections develop between present and history, I think is incredible. Sky, I know we're starting to run out of time, but just as we wrap, what do you really hope people take away from Powwow People?
I mean, that just they're really complex and beautiful things. Like these powwows, the people that attend them, the people that participate in them. I mean, there's so many things that I couldn't include in this film, like, I mean, certain dances, certain songs, certain traditions, certain practices. Just, I wish there was more vendors in this film, but it's just, there's so much depth to it. And I just hope that people get a sense of that depth and of that beauty, and that it inspires people to like do their own sort of research and to attend them with a new sort of lens and to stay late and watch the dance specials, like just to appreciate all of the aspects that go into putting these things on and the people behind them.
Honestly, Sky, I appreciate the chance to chat with you so much. It's a beautiful film. Congratulations on it. Congratulations on the festival, and I wish you the best. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you.